we're ready. You guys want to sit over too and bring the table in a little bit?
You know what? I'm comfortable.
I'm moving again.
Listen again. Bring your name back. Keep moving.
Just waiting for YouTube to tell me. I just wanted to do an audio check, make sure we're good.
Let us know, Tom.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, we're gonna call it to order now. We're gonna start with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which time any business affecting their interests is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act and Board of Education Policy 0162, the Board of Education of the Borough of Bound Brook has caused notice of this meeting to be posted in the board office and at Bound Brook High School and mailed or faxed to the Courier News, Bound Brook Borough Clerk, South Bound Brook Board of Education, and any person who has requested individual notice and paid their. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Behind the screen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bell.
I'm here.
Mr. Gossett. Here. Ms. Gazino. Ms. Carlton. Mr. Zupko. Here. Ms. Newsom.
Here.
Mr. Minhas. Here. Ms. Hyde.
Here.
Mr. Volmer. Mr. Januzzi. Mr. Board President, you have a quorum present this evening.
President. Okay, well, I guess I'm the president, so I get to make comments tonight. I did just want to acknowledge that we have a couple of special guests tonight. Thank you for coming out, Mr. Lopez, our liaison from the council, and also Ms. Connor, the president of Southbound. Thank you both for coming out. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our July meeting. We are getting close to the end of summer. It seems like we just started. We're almost a little over a month away, but I want to let everybody know, our administration is working hard to prepare for the upcoming school year, doing exciting programs, and it'll be our best year ever. So tonight, we have a presentation on the superintendent's report that Mr. Ross is going to present to us our NJ GPA data. Mr. Ross.
Thank you. All right, folks, so we presented this in committee already, but we need to show everybody where we're going and how we're getting there. Key to remember is data is numbers. We need to look at the human beings behind it and then change from the data to targeted teaching practices. So data for teaching practices. What are we looking at? So the NJGPA, New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment, is now counting for students. They need to get it to pass, right? So it's administered to grade 11 students. Make sure we know that. It's making sure that they are, quote unquote, graduation ready in ELA and in mathematics. So it looks at ELA components is aligned with our 10th grade standards, because that's what they've made it through. And then also mathematics is aligned with Algebra 1 and geometry standards. From there, to give you the context, the score is maxes of 850, 725 is what they call the cut score, and ELA and in math. So when we have students that fall below that 725 cut score, we need to make sure we're doing something to support them. Like I said at the beginning with the title, there's data here for targeted teaching, and we know exactly what we're going to be doing with the various subgroups who are not making the 725 cut score. There's different pathways for them if they do not make it. They will retake in October, the NJGPA, to see if they could pass the ELA or the math if they fail one or the other, right? That would be the first way. Second, they can do a designated cut score based on different competency tests. And then our last process is a portfolio process where they do an appeals portfolio. The student does a couple of different pieces that map for ELA and math. And that's how they get to graduation for us. Next, we start to break down our scores. We have seen increases in math, although slight. We are maintaining our levels. Last year when we presented, we looked at pre-COVID and post-COVID and noticed that unlike some districts, we have somewhat leveled out. Here, last year we were at 30% who were graduation ready. This year we did increase 3.1%. The state is dropping, be it a minimal amount, we're going up. So that is an important piece for us to keep positive about. We also are noticing that our mean and median scores are increasing, meaning where our students are falling, all of them are moving up higher on the program. So that's a key element as well. So here's how we start to take the data and turn it into changing teacher practice. We looked at the distribution of the scores and where it fell for math, and we started to look at who are at the cusp. We see 19 students who are just barely missing out the passing score. We had about 10 to 15 students who were scoring 724. So we want to make sure that we're doing things to support them. As mentioned in committee, we also want to pay attention to those who are scoring 725 to make sure that we support those who are right at the cusp on the other side. As we do that, we are then looking at practices. What is it that we can do for this group of students? And if we look at the number, we're looking at about 69 students who are below 720. We grabbed that population of students and we worked to support them with targeted instruction, with better practices, and we really see our numbers go from 30 to 70 to 80 to 90, and that's our goal. So I want to break it down by subgroups now first, and then we'll look at how we go deeper. When it comes to the breakdown of our subgroups across different populations, we see a lot of parity. That's a good thing. Our programs seem to be working. Where our programs struggle, they seem to struggle equally amongst our different groups. So by race, by gender, by program, that would be IEP, 504 student, that would be economic disadvantage. We're seeing that there's a consistency, a parity in their successes and their failures. When we are not making that cut score and when they're making that cut score. As you can see here, that's a pretty equal split for our gender of passing and not passing. We want to make sure we're growing both, but we're definitely not seeing a major bias. Same thing, a little bit less different. We can see, again, certainly we don't have all of the races here because we can't show people when it's below 10, right? So we suppress those when it comes to various subsections like Asian and Pacific Hawaiian. Again, so it's saying to us, our largest population is Latino. They still have a large population that are failing. We need to understand what those considerations are. Is that a matter of something that we need to do with language issues? Is that something that we need to do with our programming issues? And those are the conversations that you're going to see us having moving forward. Then we look at our distribution for math across various programs. Special education and learning, multilingual students are where we need to pay attention. This is where we need to target and figure out how do we go about supporting those students. What is it with our special education programs that we need to make sure we're going to give the necessary resources, accommodations to make this become more balanced. 504, again, we seem to have some decent strength there because it relates consistent with the other groups. The big key for me is targeting where are we struggling the most. As we had said in the committee meeting presentation, our biggest struggle when we look at the math is dealing with reasoning and modeling. And so what we want to do is take our standards distribution, which the chart shows us a breakdown of each of the standards that were assessed. It shows us where the state is and where we are and how we go about managing it. So for us, as we looked at it, we can notice 12, HSC-51, and if we pull that down, we can see that has to deal with modeling and reasoning. So what will we do with that? We will sit down with the director of curriculum, with the supervisor of math, both 7 through 12 and pre-K through 5, have the discussion of what do we do to change teacher practices? What is it that we need to do differently in the classroom in order to make sure we're supporting that area of struggle? And when you begin to look at the various areas where we're seeing the need for most growth, it does tend to consistently fall within the modeling and reasoning area, and then some geometry as well. Again, that's where our team is coming together and saying, okay, supervisors, what can we do? Director of curriculum, myself, even our technology people, because we start to use programs like IXL, iReady, and Benchmark. So for the ELA, we're growing and growing, and that's very impressive. 68.4% last year, we're graduation ready. This year, we're up to 76.3%. It's a very strong dynamic. We're seeing, even in this level, multilingual learners doing very well, which is important because it's saying to us some of our program changes are reaping some benefits. We can see our need, and our median score this year is at 750, which was the prior cut score. It still is the meeting level for the NJSLA. So when you look at NJSLA data, 725 to 750 is only approaching. We're 750 in NJSLA for the 9th graders, and the algebra and the geometry tests are where you're achieving. So all of our students are achieving at the higher score here in English. Not all, a lot of our students, I should say, sorry. And that is key for us to pay attention to. Next, when we look at this, we can see the distribution is really moving forward where we're getting students in the 850. We had probably 5 or 6 students who scored perfect scores. We see that when we look at our same subgroup, we're looking at a total of about 13 students. If we move them forward, we're up to 90% and higher for our passing. And that's where we need to be. So this is the stuff that we're starting to think about. Again, when we look at our separation by gender, it's very equal. This is actually almost shocking to me because it's just such a parity of male and female doing so well. I would have predicted female doing better. No offense, but traditionally young boys struggle with reading, and they're doing pretty well. Again, same thing with our distribution by race. So this, for me, shows us that we are maintaining quality education for all of our different populations, especially where we get here. This shows us the one area. And this is where the biggest struggle is going to be. When you're a multilingual learner, you potentially get in the district for only a year. You potentially get only in, so you have to be here for a year at least. You're going to have the biggest struggle. So this is where looking at our first language or English speakers, our multilingual learners, this is where we want to work on supporting them, especially because we have to test them if they've come in within prior to a year. So that's where we see the biggest struggle. Next, we looked at where did we struggle the most in reading and writing. For us, information was where we were needing to grow. So we were looking at, again, 12 here. We're going to look at number 12, which is reading history reading history, reading social studies, and us needing to work on what do we do to get students to read domain-specific texts in history, in science, in other areas, so that they can understand that vocabulary and work better. That leads to this, right? Probably should have started this slide, and as I was thinking to start it, I was going to scroll quickly through it. Just put this at the beginning, so next time I put this at the beginning and the end. This is what we've been thinking about since last year, and this is what we're doing now. So we're providing NJGPA support. We have a college career readiness now program for all of our seniors, of which 104 signed up, of which I helped to run. 88 have been showing up, and in that, our math supervisor and teacher are offering NJGPA remediation for math, and then we also have English supports as well. We're expanding, of course, our small group instruction. Why? Because we want to target students based on the standards that they need supports in, not just that whole classroom model, which is fun if you like to talk, and I do, but not so good for students. Certainly, we've been working on Target PD. Again, we want to make sure we're working to focus students' lesson plans on standard-based teaching. That's a conversation that we're starting to have because of the standards that we saw where they were struggling. Big thing, here's my Linkit badge from today. So therefore, we're utilizing IXL and iReady. The data that I can pull quickly like this is straight from Lincoln. I can pull up Lincoln, I can go, look, I need to see race. Look, I need to disaggregate by this standard. Oh, I need to disaggregate by this student in relationship to their IEP, in relationship to this. I can do that. So that's key for what we're doing with benchmark assessments such as IXL and iReady. We're doing this, which is disaggregating data, having a conversation in our meetings with supervisors, with principals, and with teachers. Again, the big piece for me is encouraging staff to think on a problem-based level rather than a what-based level. A lot of times teachers will ask what questions. That's, that fill-in-the-blank mental model, where now we want people to raise the Bloom's taxonomy and make sure that you're using better verbs and making students connect things. Here is, do a linear equation, and then tell me how many tickets in this theater are for adults versus, students. Putting those two things together is content A, content B, and you know how to apply. That's our problem-based learning model that we're moving to. And then again, we are setting up benchmarks for fall, winter, spring. And I know Robin, Director of Curriculum, has presented that the mid-year, and we'll be looking at the final year data again to review it and inform us on what do we do differently in the teaching environment. What patterns and trends do we see that will help us change teachers' teaching? And that's where we are. Questions, concerns, major malfunctions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
About the students who didn't pass in a subject area, they have to take it again in October, right?
Yes.
Knowing how the grading of these standardized tests goes, how quickly do they get it back to then inform them whether or not they have to move on to another method of passing?
December and January, so that we can run it. Our goal would be to run, and that's what we set up. We set up a portfolio process that will begin at the end of January or the second semester of the high school. So we are going to get them back by
We are going to.
December. Yeah, sort of like, FAFSA was going to come out in October.
Right.
But yes, we will get them back in a timely manner where we can then set, and we do have a program set up to start the second semester for any of those students that we need to capture who don't pass the NJGPA way. And that's been a mantra that we've been using. One of our students, I'll give this for that, said, I'm not going to pass the portfolio, I'm passing the NJGPA way, and that's been my mantra in our programs. We're going to pass the NJGPA way.
Mr. Ross, I want to thank you for an incredible presentation. My grandfather used to say, we're only strong as our weakest link. When I look at this data,
are English language learners. I look at all of our special ed, section 504, economically disadvantaged. Those children, I'm very happy that I know the district is putting in a lot of resources and effort. I guess this just shows the one common area along all of this is that being an English language learner or dual language learner is effective in all of these things.
Yes.
You know, so I applaud the administration, and I'd like to continue on my rant to really go forward with looking after our dual language learners, looking after our students that are just here needing every support they can get. And I know you're doing that. I know Dr. Freeman is doing that. So when I look at this, I see a lot of red, but I see a lot of opportunity.
Thank
You know, so when I'm looking at this, I'm not looking at numbers. I look at people. And I look at our students that are coming here. And for what I see, I think it's good. It's a start. So next year, we're going to do even better, because until we have the weakest of us, the strongest, you know, all of these numbers are important to me. I think that until we can get all of our friends that are just here learning to learn what kids that have been here for a while and give them that help. So I like to take a look at this. I know some of my fellow members who are online or people in the district saying, oh my God, look at 94%. But when you look at what's behind that, you know, our direction on supporting these students, that to make it so much more resilient is that's, if there's one goal I have being on this board, to see that that's done. And I know that you're doing that. And I know Dr. Freeman is doing that. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate all of our professionals that are doing that. So kudos to you, and kudos to all of our staff that are helping our dual language learners.
Real quickly, the thing that is so important to me is to see that these students are identified and each specific standard is addressed with that student. You said it before, that you're not teaching a whole group everything. You're teaching these sections of students what they need. And that's where you're going to see tremendous progress, because you're really looking at the data. And that's something that we've all wanted to look at. It's just so important to gather the data, analyze the data, and then go forward with your plan. So this is very important. Thank you.
So thank you very much for that. And I want to echo what you both are saying in so much as when we look at the data, we have to be conscious and intentional of what is it that we're doing to support the students. So like you were saying, Roger, that when we go to support our multilingual learners, we have to understand they need different supports, because you may go home and you're speaking Spanish. So what do we need to support you when you grow in this way? And then what do we need to do to support you in the domain-specific language? We're targeting things very specifically in how we support our students. And I know that family literacy programs that was created through our director of ESL and pieces of that nature are going to help shift it. So thank you.
I just want to add one thing. I know I've been very critical in the past, and I just want to say that, first off, phenomenal presentation, and totally killing it. You're smashing it right out of the park. It's great to see very positive manner. Kudos to you, Bob, and the rest of the administration. Dr. Freeman, thank you guys so very, very much. I'm not going to echo what my colleagues have mentioned about dual language learners. Myself, I was a triple language learner. So I understand that, and I'd love to see the fact that you're utilizing the data and also identifying all the weak points, where ways to strengthen for the students, even identifying those that are below the line, at the cusp of the line, or even just those that are just above the line. So I love the fact that you guys are attacking everybody. I mean, not in any way, but so yeah, just kudos. And please, I know everybody here is just like great written, thank you so very much. You know, I mean, we can only, you know, I don't want to put your ego anymore.
No, I appreciate everybody, I mean, it's for me, it is the fact that you're putting so many pieces together and the conversations that we have as a group is very dynamic. So I think that
Thank
makes
you so
it clear
much
that
for-
everybody is here.
Yeah, thank you so much Phil, for everything that you've done, and the rest of the administration, thank you.
Anything else from Mr. Ross? All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. Well done. Okay, we do not have our student board member, so we're gonna jump into committee meeting reports. Mr. Dawson, I don't know if you have a report now, because we kind of just saw it, so.
Yeah, we spent our education committee meeting reviewing the NJ GPA data. I think we all are very excited about our progress and appreciative for all the work that the administrators and the teachers are doing to move the needle on student achievement. We're really proud of the work you've done, and one of the things we reflected in our meeting was how different our conversations are about student data and performance now than they were several years ago. So to do all of those things, yes, it comes across in numbers, but it also indicates a deeper cultural change that's happening in the district in a positive direction. I just think about how exciting it's going to be for our staff members to come back in September and look at this data that shows that all of their work is paying off. And what a shot in the arm that'll be to motivate them to keep going and keep working with kids. How validating. So very good stuff. We also talked about a club that is on the agenda this evening that will be piloted at the high school, I believe, the Life Skills Club, which is sort of a flexible idea which will allow students to meet and discuss practical things they need to know how to do in life and how the club advisors can teach them how to do those things that may not be covered in your standard curriculum. We had a great meeting. Thanks.
Any questions for Mr. Dawson? Okay, so I'm up next on governance. First, wanted to say thank you to everyone. We have all completed our superintendent evaluation. By the way, if you didn't notice, there's also a board evaluation on the same website that you can do as well. I don't know if everyone has done that one yet. Mr. Januzzi would have that information, which he can give us next month when he returns. We are going to attempt this year to do everything in one meeting as opposed to last year. You may remember we scheduled an extra meeting where we went over as a board once, and then we called Dr. Freeman for a second meeting and discussed it with him. You may remember there wasn't too much to discuss because we wrote the evaluation ourselves, so I think most of us were in agreement when we read it. So we're gonna try to do it all in one meeting next month in August. We will see how that goes this year and obviously adjust accordingly as we go forward. We did ask about how our strategic planning process is going. It's moving along. We are in the process of giving different sections of the plan to different administrators and supervisors who need to work through it. And we're hoping that it can be finalized in August so that it's rolled out when the school year begins in September. Next, a little bit of bad news here. I reached out to Gwen because we need to do our goals for the coming year. And unfortunately, she is on vacation in August during our meeting. I even then wrote back and asked her if she had any time. It looks like her August is completely booked. So we really have two options, which I'm presenting to you. We can either do it ourselves with no facilitator at all. She did also reach out to other field reps and see if she can kind of get a substitute. So if you guys want a substitute teacher for a day, be on your best behavior. You reflect on your teacher when you have a substitute, so make sure nobody's misbehaving. But Gwen said she could probably find us someone if we want to do it that way. But we don't have a date either, so it would also, be when they are available. I feel like we could possibly do it at our August meeting now that Gwen isn't, her schedule isn't a factor anymore, so we could maybe do it right before that meeting. But again, I'll leave it up to the board as a whole to decide if you want a facilitator or if you would prefer to try to go it alone. I will remind you that last year we spent approximately 25 minutes deciding between 2 words in one of our goals. It was not anyone's fault, there was a nice spirited debate.
Based on, as I would think a substitute teacher.
I very much thought that having a facilitator kept us on track and kept us at a kind of a time limit, which otherwise, again, we would parse words forever. So I agree. Anybody else have a strong feeling one way or the other?
No, we'll do a substitute.
Okay. Okay. Glenn, and let you guys know what she comes up with for us. The last thing in governance, there was one policy that we had to discuss. It's policy 5111. It is, as many of you might know it, senior privilege. I don't know if you know what that is, but basically, if we have someone who completes through 11th grade in Bound Brook and then moves, will allow them to stay and complete their diploma here, assuming, of course, they meet certain criteria. They have to have at least a C average, and I think it was 95% attendance record. And of course, then they'd also be responsible for their own transportation, getting to and from Bound Brook for that last year. I did bring up that at that point, many kids are seniors, they're driving at that point, so it's not as much of a burden as it would be on a lower grade. But that policy will be revised, and I think it's on the next agenda, yes. Next month, okay, next month. And that's everything for governance. So, any questions for me? Okay, then we move right along to human resources, HR, Ms. Huff.
So, it's a busy time. One of the things is just looking at the hiring and looking at what was reviewed, the resignations that were received, and the interviews are really ongoing, and that's through all the schools and with Dr. Freeman. It's been really busy. One of the things we discussed in committee also were the fall career fairs. And we're expanding now, and the fairs are set up with Kane, with Montclair, with Rutgers University, and also the College of New Jersey. And this is a great opportunity for us to see programs and for candidates to see district. So it's beneficial to both. These are to take place in September and October. Also with new hires, et cetera, we're having the new teacher academy. And this is going to be August 27th, 28th, and 29th. And last year it was at a community school, and then it was broken up and people went to different schools. But it was very nice because the teachers meet with the administration and the supervisors. Teachers meet their new colleagues. The board members were there last year also just to introduce ourselves and for support. And with the association representatives too. And then of course they meet for orientation of what all the needs are in each specific area. One of the things that is changed this year is the online tuition reimbursement procedure. And it's been received positively, so that it's online, it's just much more effective than having everybody show up at the board office to submit these papers. No more concert tickets, if you could do it online, it should just streamline the whole process. And that really is all I have to report. Questions?
Okay, any questions for Ms. Hyde? All right, Mr. Zutko, you're up with operations.
I know everyone's excited, so here we go. First of all, in all seriousness, wanted to, this last operations meeting, a shout out to Mr. Gorski. Mr. Gorski and Dr. Freeman, phenomenal as usual. Really just establishing a base of operations so that we can communicate effectively with our new architect and to see all the planning that's going on. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work they're doing, no one will ever see. And I just wanted to tell, acknowledge that. So I really appreciate all of their help. So we have a construction update. We met with the architect or via, virtual. Rich was great, and we have the following updates. Purchase orders have been transmitted from the district to the receptive vendors as of 7/2. Carpet tile will need to be installed in advance of the modular partitions and loose furniture. The carpet lead time is approximately about 2 weeks. We anticipate the carpet install to occur during the week of July 29th. Waiting confirmed date from vendor. Mr. Borski, anything on that?
Nothing since the update at the operations committee.
Okay. Modular partitions and furniture have a 6 to 8 week lead time. We anticipate the installs for these items to occur during the week of August 19th. Mr. Gorski, do you have any comment on the partitions or anything like that, or can I go forward?
No, just appreciate all the help with Dr. S and all the planning. It's going to be a very nice design basement with carpet tile and cubicles, creating operational workspace out of basically nothing. So it's a stopgap measure to make a little more room needed for students, and it helps for now.
Thank you, Mr. Gorski. Big work we have coming up is boiler replacement. DIG and its engineer and facilities manager, Mr. Molina, June 4th, review the project scope and it confirms that all types and items of work are aligned with district expectations. 90% of the survey work and existing conditions verification process was completed during the week of June 10th. The bid document preparation is underway and will be advanced through the course of summer, and the team is currently on schedule for bidding by mid-September of 2024. We also have a ROD grant information, and Mr. Gorski notified the committee of a required accounting change affecting the June board secretary's report. Revenues and appropriations specific to 4 ROD grant boiler replacement projects were originally budgeted for the 23-24 general fund, known as Fund 10. However, once the state approves the projects and opening, the state commitment to provide 2/3 of the required revenue, the 4 several projects were then required to be removed from the general fund, reflected in the capital fund known as Fund 30. Finally, fixed asset appraisal update from McLean. Mr. Gorski informed us that McLean LLC will begin 23-24 fixed asset approval. A requirement for the audit is delayed to start on 8/15/24. This should not present any stress on the audit schedule. And at that juncture, I am done, Mr. President, for my report.
Okay, does anyone have any questions, comments for Mr. Zupko? No. Okay, that concludes our committee reports for the month, which means we are now open to the public for agenda items only. Is there anyone in the room with anything? Tom, online? Agenda items only.
That means,
Are we gonna be able to see what's on the agenda, or there's a disciplinary measure that my sister,
She's gonna,
Oh,
what
okay.
time is executive session?
no problem.
sorry,
There are no responses for agenda items only.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that moves us to item number 6. Be resolved, the Belleville Board of Education, on recommendation of the superintendent, approves the minutes for the following meetings, regular and executive meeting minutes of June 12, 2024. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second to Mr. Dawson. Any comments, questions? No? Okay, then can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Motion to approve the minutes moved by
Ms. Hyde,
Ms. Klein, seconded by
Mr. Dawson, yes.
And let the minutes reflect that Mr. Boomer is in attendance this evening.
Yes.
Mr. Bell.
Yes.
Mr. Dawson. Yes. Mr. Zupko.
Yes.
Ms. Musa.
abstain.
Mr. Minhas. Yes. Ms. Hyde.
Yes,
Mr. Ballmer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to item 7, be it resolved, the superintendent recommends for approval the resolutions as outlined in district personnel resolutions. This is item 7.2 to 777, which may be a record.
I think it
I
is.
don't think we've ever gotten to 77 before. So can I have a motion?
Motion.
All right, Mr. Zupko, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. Comments, questions?
I had a question about just floating leave replacement, which is specific to 715. Is that gonna
basically, we have teachers, if one teacher will go out on maternity, they'll serve for that teacher, and then we'll come back and switch.
Thank you.
I'm just excited to see the, on the docket for approval, participation, new language, professional development. And I'd like to see more of that. Excellent.
And there were so many teachers on there, it was great, so many names,
It's a good
very
start.
impressive, yeah. Anyone else? Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes, however, I need to abstain from 7:22.
thank you, so noted. Mr. Zucco? Yes. Ms. Musa?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes,
Mr. Ballmer?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 8.1, be it resolved, the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in district education resolutions. This is 8.2 down to 8.13. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Mr. Dawson, second. Dawson, comments, questions? Okay, then we'll take a roll call.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Zucco? Yes. Ms. Musa?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
yes,
Mr. Ballmer?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to item number 9. Be it resolved, the Falmouth Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in board action resolutions. This is 9.2 down to 9:44. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Is that Mr. Minhas?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Musson. Any questions or comments in section 9?
Just got a question on 9.4. Is that contract for the year or is that to be reviewed?
That's large.
Mr. Chair? Oh, that's, I discussed it a little bit. We're going to do it for this year while we're making provisions to move away. So specifically for the website, they can get in place what we need to so we can run the website ourselves. And we are going to start to look for a PR person to be nice. So this will be.
This is temporary. Okay.
This is it, okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for the donation to Smalling. I'm forgetting what it was. The garden club, the outdoor classroom. Anything else? Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Bell, board action item, just a couple noteworthy things. As Dr. Freeman mentioned, the Laura Bishop contract for district communications and website hosting was just broken up into a couple different segments. One being web hosting providers going to bill us directly instead of going through Laura Bishop. And Dr. Freeman was successful in having Laura Bishop reduce her fee for communications by $6,000. So that was on top of that. There is a proposal from the Architect DI Group and for a budgeted project in the 24-25 budget for bathroom renovations in the high school. All the gang bathrooms are going to be redone. These go back to the 1970s. And the fee for that professional service is $80,000 to take care of the design, the schematics, bid specifications, and all of the work that goes on professionally behind the scenes with bathroom designs. Also, this month we have 2 sets of financial statements, one for the month of May, and most importantly, year-end financial statements for June. And as Mr. Zupko mentioned, there is a new format to the June financial statements, breaking out into a new Fund 30, all of the 4 ROD grant projects for the 4 schools getting new boiler and hot water systems. So those projects will be accounted for in Fund 30 until they're completed and until we recognize the receivable from the state for 2/3 of the project cost, which is very attractive for our program. And that is all that I have. So board action items 9.2 to 9.44, Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Mr. Zupko,
Yes.
Ms. Musa,
Yes.
Mr. Minhas,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Ballmer.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, we are all the way to new business. Any other matters to come before the board? Anyone have anything for us tonight? See Tom moving into position, because after that, we are now open to the public for discussion on any matters. Tom, do you have anything there? Anybody in the room?
I don't have anything.
Oh, I thought you heard me say
No,
no.
I'm sorry, I did not. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
My fault. Okay, so that brings us to item 13, which is executive session. Mr. Mayor, I don't know what numbers we're going in under.
137.
Okay, we're going into executive under 1, 3, 7, and 8. Can I have a motion to go to executive?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Zucko. Second?
Second.
Who's that? Ms. Musson? All right, thank you. Please do all in favor for that. All in favor?
Aye.
You're unmuted, you're good to go.
Okay, we are back from executive session. While we were in closed session, we had a resolution, so after I'm done reading, I'm going to need a motion to move it. Here it is. Whereas the Bound Board of Education has conducted a hearing with respect to an appeal of a report on harassment, intimidation, and bullying investigation number 259195 SES 01312024. And whereas the board has heard from the parent and school officials with respect to the investigation and the recommendation of the superintendent. And whereas the board has determined that there is no basis to disturb the recommendation of the superintendent with respect to the findings and conclusions made with regard to the HIB matter. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. The Bound Board of Education hereby affirms the recommendation of the superintendent and directs that the superintendent notify the parents in writing of the board's decision. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zupko, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. Roll call. We don't need to do comments, I think, at this point, just a roll call. Yes.
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Mr. Zupko,
Abstain.
Ms. Musson. Mr. Minhas,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Ballmer.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to number 14, this be it resolved that the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIB cases under high school. This is 14.2 and 3. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Zupko. No comments here? No comments on this. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Mr. Zupko,
Yes.
Ms. Musson,
Yes.
Mr. Minhas.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Ballmer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, on to number 15. Be it resolved, the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIB cases under middle and elementary schools. This is 15.2 and 3. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Minhas. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Mr. Zupko,
Yes.
Ms. Musson,
Yes.
Mr. Minhas.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
and Mr. Ballmer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and everybody's favorite, number 16. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. Second to Mr. Dawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.